lesson number 8. It says, Give Yourself Permission, part 2. And today we're going to talk about ways to improve your attitude. Just to recap a little bit of last week's lesson, we talked about different types of attitudes and how they affect your ability to pursue your destiny. And we ended with the attitude awareness test, which I'll review in brief for you. And it is this: if someone stole your attitude, would you be upset or relieved? If you could sell a particular attitude, how much would you get for it? Is this attitude helping or hurting your ability to proceed toward your goals? Where will you be in 5 years with that attitude? What experiences do you need to forget and move past? Like I said before, General Lee went to visit a family friend, and there was this burnt up tree in front of her house, and she kind of bemoaned it and told the story of how the Union soldiers came by and they burned her beautiful cherry tree that she had had for so many years. That had been, her father or granddaddy had planted it or whatever. And when she was done complaining about it, he said to her, cut it down and forget it. And a lot of times that's what we got to do with things. That having been said, let's discuss 13 different ways to improve your attitude. The old proverb goes, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Now, don't get me wrong, some people take that to the extent where they think that their words have the power to create whatever they want, and I'm not saying that at all, because that isn't true. Give you an example of death and life being in the power of the tongue. A few years ago, there was an incident where some amateur comedian and her fiance, boyfriend, whatever, were robbed and they were killed. And the media at first reported the full incident, what happened, because there was a witness who apparently heard what had happened and apparently survived the incident. But the man had robbed them at gunpoint, and she had said, "What are you going to do, shoot us?" And then he shot them. So death was in the power of her tongue. If she kept her mouth shut, she'd probably be alive. That's a good example of life and death being in the power of the tongue. Now, what you speak does have an effect on you, etc., etc. But I'm not going to go so far as to say that you can speak a Lamborghini into your driveway by tomorrow. I very seriously doubt that's going to happen. And some people say, "Well, you just don't have enough faith." Okay, you have all the faith. I'll watch you do it. In fact, speak me a Lamborghini while you're at it. I'll wait. Anyway, that having been said, some ways to improve your attitude. One of them is affirmations. Like I said, death and life are in the power of the tongue. So there is a lot of power in what you say, and especially what you say to yourself about yourself. Elite business leaders, world-class athletes, sales professionals all over the world use affirmations to keep their attitude in a good place. When I was a stockbroker, I began my day with a set of verbal affirmations. Sometimes went through them several times a day whenever I felt the weight of rejection bearing down on me. Because as a stockbroker, most of what you deal with all day long is rejection. People are telling you no in ways that I can only describe as deeply pornographic. They're not nice. They're usually not nice in how they reject you. And so sometimes, several times a day, I would go through these affirmations from there was a book called The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. And it's a good source for some pretty nice affirmations. The slaughterhouse of failure is not my destiny, and all that good stuff. I'm a lion, and I refuse to eat, sleep, or live with the sheep. I'm not saying that's got to be your set of affirmations. Come up with your own. And then, of course, there's the internet as a source for various affirmations you can use. It's not the whole picture, but it's a good piece of it. You do want to watch what you say to yourself about yourself, especially with regard to things that are directly pertaining to your destiny. Then there's visualization. Now, some people make this into a whole hocus pocus thing, but what I'm referring to is developing a good picture in your mind about what it is that you're after. Nelson Mandela, when he was asked how he survived all those years in prison, he said, I thought continually of the day I would walk free. I fantasized. Visualizing the outcomes you desire and the impact that those outcomes will have on your life are going to help you to stay focused on the attitudes and the decisions that are conducive to those goals. So I'm not talking about some spooky stuff that people do where they talk about visualization, they think they're making it happen. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about having a good picture of what it is that you're after. The third thing for adjusting your attitude is, I would say, discover your motives. J.P. Morgan used to say that people usually have two reasons for the things they do. The real reason and one that sounds good. Now, that leads me to the question, are your real reason and your good sounding reason the same? If not, I will respectfully suggest that perhaps some adjustments need to be made. It's much easier to maintain a good attitude when you're honest with yourself about your motives. Another wise man once said, if you have to justify it, you probably shouldn't have done it. Never feeling a need to justify your decisions works wonders for attitude. The fourth one is to develop a positive internal dialogue. Sometimes our most severe critic lives inside our own head. You've got to learn to develop the habit of silencing any negative self-talk that goes on in your head. As Les Brown is fond of saying, the biggest obstacle to your greatest success is always you. And that's mostly true. When we habitually engage in negative internal dialogue, our very body's physiology will adapt to it. Why else do you think that when someone has major surgery or is recovering from a serious illness in the hospital, the doctors will typically instruct family members not to upset them and not to bring them any bad news? They know that staying positive has a definite impact on your body's ability to recover. The same is true for your business life or your ministry life or whatever it is that God has you pursuing. Your internal dialogue is not just going to directly affect your subconscious mind. That's what they call it in psychology, and spiritually what that would be is your spirit. It's going to have the power to influence your decisions. So it influences your decisions, and it also impacts your spirit, what people call your subconscious mind. You may say you don't believe it, but the more you say it to yourself, the more you think it, the more likely you are to internalize it and actually believe it. Like we said before, a lot of times we believe things that really aren't true, but we think it's true because we've kind of talked ourselves into it. Now, this is one reason why a lot of people can make a right decision, but then almost seem to sabotage their own efforts in very subtle ways, and that because their subconscious mind, their inner man, has taken hold of the negative internal dialogue and is executing the program, so to speak. Now, however, it is also possible to accomplish the opposite effect by establishing a positive internal dialogue. A small dose of discipline in this area can have a very big impact on your life. Some ways to do this include listen to something inspirational every day. Most of us have spent our lives listening to a lot of negative things. And by negative, I don't mean things like, let's say somebody is pointing out something that is wrong. That's not necessarily negative. If I tell you got a flat tire, that's not negative. I'm helping you out. Because sometimes people think something's negative because we're addressing a problem or identifying a problem. No, that's not what I mean. Now I'm talking about things that just put you down and keep you down for no good reason. So listen to something inspirational every day, because a lot of us, we've had enough of people trying to convince us that we can't do something. You know, that nagging negative voice in your head came from the influences in your life, and doing this, listening to something inspirational every day, will establish some new influences. Find some mentors, find some not only things like books or whatever that will influence you well, but find people who will be a good influence in the direction that you need to go. Another thing is the fifth one rather, is watch your mouth. Sometimes we have to deal with our own self-talk and internal dialogue, but we forget to watch our mouth in general. There's so many stressful and even harmful situations in life which arise simply because we couldn't keep our mouth shut. There's an ancient proverb which states that even a fool is counted wise when he holds his peace. Business, ministry, life in general are a little or even a lot easier when we don't have to constantly perform damage control because we said something we shouldn't have, or something which may have been true but didn't necessarily need to be said right then and there. Another thing that will help with your attitude is to smile. There have been studies that have been done that have found that smiling has a positive effect on attitude. In fact, there's an idea called the facial feedback theory that basically states that our emotional state is benefited by smiling. When you're having a rough day, find a mirror and smile at yourself. To your brain chemistry, it's as if somebody else smiled at you. To your inward mind, to the chemistry of your brain, somebody else smiled at you. That's how it registers. And I dare you to give it a try. Number 7, utilize positive greetings. Have you ever met somebody and asked them how they were doing and they proceeded to just complain about life? Did it make you want to be around them? Did it seem to help their attitude? Probably not. Around the time when I was revising this book, I developed a severe infection in my cheek, which broke out into an abscess on my face. It really wasn't pretty. And when people who were concerned asked me about it, rather than complain, I smiled and said there might be surgery in the future, and then I could go back to being a good-looking guy again. And everybody I said that to laughed because I'm not a good-looking dude. And instead of hearing me complain, they got to hear a dose of humor, and everybody walked away having had a quick and easy laugh. And they knew Sam was going to be all right. Number 8, enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is every bit as contagious as a bad cold. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be like a squirrel on Prozac, but rather you should make a small effort to inject enthusiasm into what you do. It won't always be easy, and sometimes you won't want to do it anyway and see what happens. It's not always easy, believe me, oh goodness. Number 9, meet your spiritual needs. We are spiritual beings, and on some level we all have a need to pursue and express that spirituality, and particularly within the faith. A lot of us, we want to pursue our destiny, but we're not tending to the inner man. We're not cultivating our relationship with God, and as I'm so fond of saying so often, you're a son first and you're a son after. Whatever you might be a bishop, you might be a prophet, you might be an apostle, that's a job. Whether I'm a writer or a doctor or a plumber or a professional wrestler, I'm still my Father's son. Likewise, no matter what your destiny is, you are a son. Meet the spiritual needs. Spend time in prayer. Spend time in the Word. Spend time in worship without any particular agenda. Work on your relationship with God. A lot of times some people are there chasing prophets and things like that, trying to get answers about their destiny, and they never even realize that a lot of those answers will come through fellowship with God. A lot of those answers are going to come in prayer. A lot of those answers are going to come through reading the Bible. Number 10, tend to your relationships. You've got to set aside time, because sometimes we neglect our relationships because we're trying to find time. You got to make time. Because let's face it, those of you who are pursuing success or you're pursuing ministry, a lot of what you're doing it because of the people you love and care about. Be sure to enjoy those people. Number 11, humor. Yet another ancient proverb, from the Bible actually, says that a merry heart does good like medicine. And science has actually finally caught up to that particular bit of wisdom. Humor it does have an impact on your health and affects your attitude. I usually try to listen to or read or watch something funny every day. I will admit, I do watch Fail Army's YouTube channel every now and then, because they are at times hilarious. Number 12, exercise. Your health and fitness play a big part in your attitude. Making a consistent effort to exercise will improve your energy, lead to better health, you're going to live longer, and you will feel better about yourself, which in turn will affect your attitude. Number 13, play. I know a man who says that the greater the intellect, the greater the need for some form of play, and it seems to be true. Yes, there's a price to pay for success, there's a price to pay for your destiny. You're going to have to work hard and sacrifice and all that, but you may as well play hard too. Have some fun doing things you enjoy with the people you care about. It's not just great for your attitude, it's great for your relationships, it's great for your health. Now, while you're doing these things, you may also want to select what I like to call attitude models. Study high achievers in and outside of your field and learn the attitudes they exemplify most. A good way to select attitude models is my threefold approach to attitude modeling. The first one is what I call industry. At least some of your attitude models should come from within your particular industry, your field, whatever it is that you are pursuing. Let's say you're an artist. Look for people who exemplify the kind of the productive attitudes in that field, or at least a related field. This will ensure that you're learning attitude habits that are relevant to your own kind of work. For example, the hard charger attitude of a New York stockbroker probably won't go over that well in the early childhood development industry. You know, I'm picturing somebody trying to teach a bunch of 5-year-olds a straight line sales method. Anyway, another aspect is skill set. Select attitude models whose skill set is similar to yours or one to which you aspire. Now, this is, of course, to ensure relevance, but it's also about recipe. Much in the way you can make a great meal following a cookbook, you can reproduce the success of others whose attitudes have clearly been productive. Why bother reinventing the wheel? Yes, there's times when I do a painting and I'm painting a tree and I say to myself, let me put a happy little tree here. He's my friend. Some of you will get the joke. It's Bob Ross. I spent a lot of time watching Bob Ross and learned how to paint by watching him. But anyhow, and he had a great attitude for painting. Very relaxed, goodness, he was so relaxed. You think there's something up, man. Some people thought he was like on weed or something, but he's like the most relaxed, most mellow painter ever. But you might want to be a Jackson Pollock and you're just throwing paint everywhere. Pick your attitude models according to what you know to be God's will for your life. Another key to good attitude modeling is inspiration. Choose individuals who inspire you. Most people agree that when they feel inspired to do something, it flows much more easily. And the work they do is often of higher quality. This holds true for modeling character and behaviors. Now, it's hard to overstate the importance of attitude. The wrong attitude can trap you in a maze of negativity and self-doubt, while the right attitude can set you free to accomplish things that you might not have even attempted otherwise. Remember, there are many others out there who are similar to you in skill and expertise and knowledge, but there's only one you. And a lot of what is going to determine whether the people you are supposed to impact even notice you will be your attitude. And if you follow this, you'll be able to make the adjustments you need in your attitude to be able to give yourself permission to actually start pursuing what God has called you to do. God bless you. Okay.